The gigantic government sucks. Pursuit of happiness radio is deluxe. Liberty and freedom will make you smile. The pursuit of happiness on your radio dial. Just as cheeseburgers and liberty fries, it's pursuit of happiness time.
Oh, hi. Greetings, everybody. Exciting news this morning. The Taliban is kicking out members who don't have beards. So, bad news for Lindsey Graham, I guess. Hi, Kenny Webster. Thanks so much. I know, that's not what you knew I was going to tell a dumb joke, but you didn't know it was going to be a joke about Lindsey Graham's sex life. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I'm Kenny Webster. This afternoon on the show, who's stopping by? Brandon Darby's going to be here from Breitbart, Texas. And we have the latest border report. And then Brandon Waltons is here calling in from TexasScorecard.com. It's an afternoon filled with Brandon, so that'll be a lot of fun. But before we get to any of that, I suppose as good a place as ever would be to start the show with this. If you're anything like me, you know that on this day 3 years ago, something quite infuriating happened. For those of us that care, 3 years ago today, we said goodbye to 13 service members. August 26, 2021, the suicide bombing at Abbey Gate at the Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul. We didn't need to lose these people. Hell, we didn't need to hand over the city of Kabul to the Taliban the way that we did. Everything's always 2020 in hindsight. Donald Trump, when he was president, had a pretty good plan for how to get out of Afghanistan without losing everything and handing an air force filled with equipment over to the Taliban. And I guess Joe Biden didn't like that plan. He went the opposite direction on this. He gave an air force full of equipment to the Taliban. I hate to sound radical here with my extreme positions, but I think we should not have done that. I find that to be a bad idea. Anyway, today, Donald Trump, the guy who should have been president, took place in a very solemn ceremony, visited Arlington National Cemetery earlier this morning to pay his respect to those men and women. One of the mothers of the fallen service members was on Fox and Friends this morning talking about how her son died. He was a 20-year-old kid, died in Kabul that day. And then a year later, his brother, her other son, couldn't handle the anxiety, the depression, the mental health anguish that it had caused, killed himself. So it's 2 deaths. This woman lost 2 sons because of Joe Biden and his horrible leadership. And by the way, Kamala Harris owns this as well. That is not my opinion. Kamala Harris certainly does own it. She's even said so. Hang on, I got a clip of this. Kamala Harris was the vice president at the time. I think she still is. Is she vice president? Who exactly is running the country? Nobody really knows. Anyway, on CNN 3 years ago, she was asked about how it all went down.
President Biden always said that he wants you to be the last person in the room, particularly for big decisions, just as he was for President Obama. He just made a really big decision, Afghanistan.
Yes.
Were you the last person in the room?
Yes.
Wow.
And you feel comfortable?
I do.
Oh, yeah, she feels great about it. Yeah, bee's knees. I mean, just a swimming success over there in Afghanistan. Nothing to, what could you possibly be ashamed about? Earlier today, I noticed the Associated Press ran an article. It was one of those Republicans pounce articles, and it said, I don't have it in front of me, but the article basically said, Donald Trump is going to try to tie the botched Afghanistan withdrawal to Kamala Harris. He doesn't have to try. Kamala Harris has already tied herself to it. I don't know why the liberal media is so desperate to play Monday morning quarterback for these Democrats, but at any rate, so she can't distance herself from that. There's nothing she could do to divide or separate herself from Afghanistan. She took responsibility. She said she was one of the decision makers when it all went down. She was also one of the decision makers on the border, whether she likes it or not, whether the liberal media likes it or not. Back in 2021, Kamala Harris came out and gave a very famous speech where she told illegal immigrants down at the border, do not come. Do not come. She was put in charge of the border. She was the border czar. Border czar is not an official title. Most people are smart enough to realize that, unless you work at a fact-checking website like PolitiFact or Snopes, and then you don't understand what that means. That's just a lie that Republicans are trying to tell. But there are plenty of lies when it comes to the border. I don't think Republicans are responsible for most of it. Townhall.com today reports, during the DNC last week in Chicago, the Democrat Party did their best to rebrand Kamala Harris as a tough-on-the-border prosecutor. She took control of the drug cartels, and she stopped illegal immigration. And that, of course, is all a lie. Joe Biden did put her in charge of the border, but Harris oversaw the largest influx of illegal immigration in United States history. I'm going to repeat that because I think it's worth repeating. More illegal immigrants crossed over the border while Kamala Harris was border czar than at any other point in American history. She visited the U.S. southern border, sort of, went down and visited with Mexico one time for a few hours. She went to El Paso and made the point that actually there's not a lot of illegal immigration down here, guys. Take a look around. I don't see a lot of people crossing over illegally here. Now, that's interesting because it was two lies at the same time. The first lie was that there was no illegal immigrants coming over the border in El Paso. They are coming over. But part of the reason why it's not as bad in El Paso as it is in other parts of the border, there's a wall there. Yeah, you ever been to El Paso? There's a big giant border barrier. Works great. Well, speaking of big giant border barriers, maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Kamala Harris now has a political ad that she's running. Team Harris is shamelessly lying about her record in a new television advertisement. The details are so phony, even her usual allies in the media are calling her out. She's running a political ad where she claims to be tough on the border, and in that political ad, she is using footage of Donald Trump's border wall. Here is ABC News from this weekend.
But if you take a look at that ad, one thing that I found striking is if you look, and I think we have the images here, there are at least 3 points in that ad that show the border wall. Donald Trump's border wall.
Huh.
Is it now the position of the Democrats that they favor the border wall?
We don't know.
Okay, guys, it's just amazing, right? Like, it's one of those don't piss on my leg and tell me that it's raining moments. That's exactly what this was. But here's Kamala Harris using Donald Trump's border wall in her political ad. She's not the only one. Here in the state of Texas, where our flagship home station is, for those of you watching me online, I'm a Texas radio personality. I live in Houston. It's the biggest city in the biggest conservative state in the country. And I'm pretty up to date on what's going on in Texas politics. In fact, my buddy Brandon Waltons is stopping by later this afternoon from TexasScorecard.com to talk about how Ken Paxton and Governor Abbott just removed hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people off the voter rolls that aren't supposed to be there, including thousands of illegal immigrants and foreigners. Not all of them here illegally, but certainly some of them are voting illegally. Thousands of non-citizens, foreigners, if you will, people that shouldn't be voting, have voted in recent Texas elections, and we have proof of it. Democrats will tell you that sort of thing never happens, but it does. At any rate, thank God that they're doing it just in time for this, because while Kamala Harris was using footage of Donald Trump's border wall at the Democrat National Convention last week and taking credit for it, she wasn't the only person pretending to be tough on the border. Meet Colin Allred. I think I have him on the screen over here. Hold on a second for those of you watching me on social media. This is Colin Allred. This is Ted Cruz's challenger. And Ted Cruz gave a speech last week. Colin Allred gave a speech last week to the DNC. Colin is kind of like Beto O'Rourke if Beto O'Rourke was a dumb jock. No offense to dumb jocks. Some people are calling him Black Beto. I don't like that. I think we should call him Concussion Beto, which I think is a much better nickname. Colin Allred isn't a bright man. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch him have a debate with Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is going to smoke this guy. They say that Ted Cruz is up by only 2 points. I'm suspicious of that, but okay, fine. Colin Allred tried to work border security into his speech last week. Listen to how quiet everybody gets during his speech when he talks about securing the border.
We will protect and restore reproductive freedom.
Sure.
We will secure the border. We'll protect Medicare and Social Security. And we'll turn the...
You notice that? You notice how isn't that great? He's listing off all the left-wing stuff. Abortion and Medicare and welfare. And then he says secure the border. And they're like, what? Are we at the wrong political convention? Yeah. I mean, look, if you're at the DNC, chances are you probably are at the wrong political convention.
Stop it, government. Get out of my life.
You're listening to The Pursuit of Happiness Radio.
All right, everybody, stand by. We are recording segments for this afternoon. Brandon Walton's on the show this afternoon. Brandon Darby as well, one of the senior editors of Breitbart, the creator Breitbart, Texas. But right now you are watching me recording monologues for the afternoon show, which who doesn't love monologues? Monologues are so much fun, aren't they? Where was I? All right, let's pick it up right here. We need some bumper music. Stand by, everybody. We're going live. Bad news. Bad news if you love crabs. Scientists say billions of crabs have disappeared from the planet because of climate change. I mean, why else? Why else would it be? That is so sad. We're going to miss all those crabs because of climate change. But the good news is this. Billions more crabs were added thanks to the Kardashians. Hi, Kenny Webster. So great to be here with you this afternoon. I am an advocate for free speech. I find that there's nothing more vulgar than censorship. Do you remember years ago, Jimmy Kimmel used to do this? It's hard to believe, but a long time ago, Jimmy Kimmel was funny for a short period of time. I know it's hard to believe. It was a very long time ago. He was briefly funny, and he used to do this segment on his show called Unnecessary Censorship. And all he would do is he would play a clip or a soundbite of somebody talking, usually from the news, and then he would add bleeps to it. And I might even have an old clip of this somewhere on my computer. Maybe I don't. No, so I suppose I probably should have prepared this before I did the segment. Anyway, the point is he used to do this segment on his show, and people would talk, and he would play little clips and he'd add bleeps at weird points in their statement that didn't seem to fit in. They didn't really seem to make any sense. Here we go. Here's one. Here's Billy Ed Hatfield of the Walton and Johnson Morning Show.
I don't know about you, but I'd like to eat from Putin's. Yeah, it's a bunch of in here when there's important to be done.
Right. All we did was we bleeped the part where it removes context from the sentence, and then it sounds really dirty, doesn't it? Well, that's the thing. Censoring something always makes it much dirtier. It always makes it more vulgar. That's just a rule for life. And I want you to think about that while we talk about this today. In France, Emmanuel Macron's government just arrested Pavlov Durov. He's the guy that created Telegram. Now, he didn't start with that. Years ago, he created Russia's biggest social media network, and then he made Telegram. Telegram is a social media network that uses encryption so that your messages are really hard for hackers to access, or foreign governments or adversary governments or government agents, so you could communicate to someone and actually have privacy. That's the whole point. And people use this for a number of reasons. Some people use it for nefarious reasons. Some people use it just simply honest people because they want privacy, which is fine, right? At any rate, I would assume that creating a social media platform that protects people's privacy shouldn't be criminal, even if people are doing things on it that are criminal. You'll hear critics of me and Telegram's CEO say things like, yeah, but on Telegram, they're selling drugs and trading child pornography. All right, slow your roll there, buddy. They're doing that on every social media platform, including Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, you name it. So if it's happening on Telegram, I got to assume that's just one of many places where those things are going on at. But also, people use Telegram simply to have a private conversation. In fact, Telegram is very important to journalists who need to protect their sources. In a free and fair society with a free press, a social media platform like Telegram is absolutely a necessity to be used as a tool for journalists who simply want to make sure the people that are providing them with information aren't endangering their lives. That doesn't sound so bad, does it? Anyway, Emmanuel Macron disagrees. The leader of France does not agree with that. He thinks that they needed to arrest the creator of Telegram, and he's saying there's nothing political about it at all. And they haven't really released all the details yet about why he was arrested, but one of the things the media keeps saying is, there's sexual exploitation of children happening on Telegram, which I'm sure most of us would agree is bad, right? But as I've just stated, that sort of thing is already happening on pretty much every social media platform. So why are they calling out Telegram? And I'll even add this to that. What an odd person to make this point. Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, met his current wife when he was 15 years old and she was 40 or 39. At any rate, close enough, right? So a middle-aged woman is dating a teenage boy. His parents were so bothered by this, they sent him away to boarding school to get him away from her. And when he got out, they got married, and they've been together ever since, and now she's an old lady. Anyway, so Telegram, fascinating news story today. And Telegram has its own token, its own crypto token. The Telegram linked token has just shed $2.7 billion in value after the CEO was detained. Now, this is everything the globalists and the authoritarians ever wanted. We've A, managed to stifle free speech, and B, we've managed to hinder your ability to trade crypto on the internet. You know, they hate crypto. There's a reason why all these crypto bros and people like Amber Rose are coming out in support of Donald Trump. People on the right, conservatives, libertarians, tend to support crypto, and people on the left don't. It's as simple as that. With all that being said, there's somebody else who absolutely hates free speech, and that guy is Tim Walz. In fact, I have a clip of Tim Walz here I wanted to share with you guys today. Tim Walz says, let me put this up on the screen so those of you watching me on social media can see. Tim Walz says, there's no such thing as free speech.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
What? There's no guarantee to free speech. You can't, no guarantee. And the misinformation thing's weird, right? Like you can't just be wrong. The liberal media is wrong all the time. Democrats are wrong all the time, sometimes on purpose. Is Tim Walz suggesting that that should be criminal? Townhall.com today reporting on how over the last few weeks, as corrects and fact checks were rolling in, a lot of us wondered, does Governor Tim Walz ever tell the truth? He lied about his military service over and over again in a litany of ways. I mean, his service, where he was sent to, his position, what he did for the military, actually abandoned his troops, abandoned the men in his group, and then went off to Italy where he claims he got PTSD eating chicken Alfredo. Seems unlikely. We know he even stooped to lying about his 2 children and how they were conceived. He made up this fake story suggesting that his wife used IVF in order to get pregnant. And I'll tell you, I don't actually care that much about that. I'm not going to be one of the people to pile on there. His wife apparently didn't use IVF. She used a different form of conception assistance, which has a different alphabet acronym, and it doesn't really matter. But it's one thing after another with this guy. Tim Walz lies a lot. If he believes it might help his political career or advance a political attack, he'll just say it, and he'll say it even if it's not true. So he didn't really teach through an actual Harvard program. That's the latest lie. The latest lie is this. For Tim Walz, a pattern of lies stretching back almost 2 or 3 decades here, we've now learned that in 2006, in his campaign for Congress in rural Minnesota, he boasted in his public biography that in 1993 he was named the Outstanding Young Nebraskan by the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce for his service in education. Turns out that's not really true either. And apparently also made another little lie here about being involved in a nonprofit founded by Harvard undergraduates, including Nobel Prize-winning economist Michael Kremer in 1986. For a time, the program was funded by Harvard's Phillips Brooks House Association, but not around the time when he was funded by it. So he didn't really teach through an actual Harvard program, but that's how he presented it. That's an extra interesting move for a guy who weirdly attacks J.D. Vance for having gone to Yale University. Did you guys watch the Democrat National Convention last week? He attacked J.D. Vance over and over again for attending Yale, and he did it in a room filled with people who attended Yale, which is a funny thing to do. By the way, unrelated to that, but yet weirdly related somehow, as a lot of you guys know, over the weekend, RFK Jr. endorsed Donald Trump. And we knew that there'd be a hit piece on him, but we didn't know it would be this silly. Right after he made the endorsement of Donald Trump, the Associated Press comes out and runs an article saying RFK Jr. sold cocaine when he was in high school. And the guy that wrote the article was someone that claimed to have bought the cocaine from him. It's like, okay, so you're so desperate to make RFK Jr. look bad that you're willing to admit that you're a cokehead? Oh, okay, fine, I guess. But at any rate, I got to think that in a place like Washington, D.C., throwing stones at people for snorting cocaine is probably not going to have the end result that you're hoping for.
Stop listening to the government and start listening to the truth on Pursuit of Happiness Radio with Ken Webster Jr., a.k.a. Producer Kenny.
Hey guys, I just wanted to jump on here real quick and record a couple monologues for my afternoon show. But since you're all here, let me say what's up to everybody in the comment section. What's up to Paul and Jeff Canada, one of my favorite Texas country singers, watching this live stream right now. Very cool to see you, Jeff. Mike asks, Mike says he misses John Walton. I miss John too. Kyle says, hello, Kenny. Hello to you, Kyle. Gavin says she was tough on the blacks, bent over for the illegals. I assume you're talking about Kamala. By the way, Gavin could say that. He's a black guy, so we don't get to judge him for that. Tama says, thank you. Mick says, hello, Kenny. Mike says she is one of the fakest politicians in history. That's true. Larry says, thanks for sharing. You're very welcome. Gavin says, pissed about Telegram. I use it every day for my club. Oh, what is your club, Gavin? I think I might know. He's a member of a drinking club affiliated with Gavin McInnes. I'm neither endorsing them nor am I vilifying them. Mike says, humans are sold on Facebook. I don't see them getting shut down. Yeah, that's exactly right. If you're mad about Telegram, how do you feel about so many other things? And let's see. Adaptus Sweet Man Santa says, bro, I forgot you were with J&J. Do you mean W&J, Walton and Johnson? Michael says, hey, Kenny. What's up, Michael? And Bravos fan says, hey. And Eric says, hey, too. Greetings to see you guys all. Thanks so much for getting connected today. I'm going to run, but I'll be back a little later. So thanks so much for watching this live stream. If you don't mind, share this video with your homies and subscribe to the podcast.